Hi, I'm George Pearson. In this Photoshop Elements video, we'll be doing this ghost portrait using a few techniques like invert layer and some blend modes and stuff. If you enjoy this video, make sure you click that like button and also share with your friends by clicking on that share button as well, and share this on your social media accounts. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and if you want to learn a lot more about Photoshop Elements, to really learn how the program works, then take a look at my complete training course, and you'll find a link for that right down there in the description. Okay, let's get to it. This ghost portrait technique is pretty straightforward, pretty quick and easy, so you can do this with pictures of your friends or family or whatever. It has a background picture with a color filter on that, and the foreground picture here with some fun stuff done to the foreground picture to give it more of that ghostly effect. Let's now say this whole thing was done. I'm going to close this one down, get that out of the way. There is the background picture I used, and here's the portrait I used as well for these two. We'll start off with a brand new file. Go up here to File, New, and Blank File. I have mine set for the default Photoshop Elements size right there, 6x4 at 300, and we'll just bring that up. Now, having your windows as floating windows like this makes this project a little bit easier at this point. If you are not sure about how to do that, just go up here to the Edit menu, come down to Preferences, and click on the General tab right there, and make sure these two check boxes are checked. Allow floating documents in expert mode, and also enable floating document window docking. As long as those two are checked, everything will work out fine. You can then either have your windows floating like that, or if you take a window, move it up here to the top, see how it just kind of disappears there? It's a little light blue line right underneath where it says Expert. You can kind of see that right up there. Let go at that point, and that window then docks in the background with a tab just like that. Now these two pictures, I have these online, and you can get the download links for these from the project page on my website, and you'll find a link for that also right down there in the description. Okay, let's just get him out of the way like that for right now. Let's take this one up here. The nice thing about doing a floating window is you can just grab the background and drag it onto your main project just like that and close that down. It's that easy to transfer between your different project files. Just go over here to the standard Move tool, and I'm going to shrink this down. Just grab a corner, shrink it down just a little bit until it fits in the window. This is the right size. I'll go just a little bit larger than that and push it up to the top. That's a good spot right there, and just click OK. Let's now take this guy over here. Same thing. Because it's a floating window, I can just grab that background layer and drag it onto my other project, and there it is, transfer the file over. We can now close him out. That's one of the nice little things, again, about using those floating windows. Okay, he's a little bit large for our picture, so let's grab a corner here. We'll pull him down a bit. Now if he's just at the bottom of the picture right there, then you want just a little bit of space above. Now sometimes it's easier to see if you make him a little bit transparent. You kind of see where he's going to be positioned. We're going to be putting him right about in here, and that looks pretty good size-wise, just kind of comparing it with the stuff in the background. Okay, so there's our position for the guy. Now we need to cut him out of his background. That's easy enough. I'm going to float this window again. Another nice reason to use floating windows is you can zoom in a bit further this way, just like that, so you get a little better view of things. And we'll grab the standard lasso tool. Make sure you're on the right layer, of course. And then I'm just going to drag, just do a little lasso right around his figure, not right against the edge, but up very close to the edge. And then we'll use the refine edge to clean this up. Now this is easy to do for this particular picture because we're going to be making a ghost effect anyway. So if it's a little bit messed up, if it's not exactly perfect, it's just fine. No one's ever going to see it in this particular project. So depending upon your project, you may or may not have to be much more careful about your selections. In this case, it's not that critical. Back to our beginning right there. There's the selection. And let's now go up here to Select and come down to Refine Edge. There's the Refine Edge tool. With this tool, You can see right there, there's a little refine edge tool. Now it's a little bit small, so I'm going to push this up. Just get it out of the way right there. There we go. Here's the size in the options for the refine edge tool. I'm going to bring this up to about 40, 39, 40 in there somewhere. That looks pretty good. Okay, there's the size. You want it large enough so you can overlap your image and that red background. Kind of go right on top of that area in here that you didn't touch with that previous selection. I'll leave everything else here alone. Leave all that just as is, all the default settings. And then just do a real quick drag around here. We'll then go back and clean up this edge as a second pass. Now I tend to go through here and just do it on a few moves like that. I'll do part of it and then stop, and part of it again and then stop. And that gives me just a little bit more control. If I mess up, I can go back just a little bit. I don't have to go back all the way this way. So just doing it little steps makes it a little bit easier to back up. Now right down in here is a bit tricky because his shirt is almost exactly the same color as that background. That will have to be cleaned up. But we'll see how well we do. It's actually not too bad in there. We'll do a little cleanup on that. Okay, so far so good. Now to clean up, go up here to the magnifying tool, the zoom tool. I'm going to zoom in. Here we are. There we go. So we take this little slider control right there. Now you can see where the pink is coming into his hat in here. And right down here is spots where we weren't really getting that clean enough. So I'll go back here to our tool. Now at this point the tool is too large. So just get him out of the way again. And I'll bring this down. I'm just going to type in 15. 15 is a good size. There it is. And I'll bring it back over here again. So there's the slider control. And then the little tool in here in the refine edge. Again, you can just come back and just kind of tap those spots that didn't quite get caught properly. That's good. Now where the pink is coming into your image, this is the mask coming into the image. You can fix this with this other tool right here. This is a reset tool. They call it an edge refinement tool. It simply resets the image back to its standard non-masked position. So just come in and wherever you see red spilling into your image, just paint right into that. Now again, because we're doing that kind of a ghost effect, this isn't as critical on this particular picture. If it was a different picture, if I was doing something else, I'd be much more careful about this. But on this one, we're kind of lucked out here. It's not that critical. Okay, again, there's more pink showing up in here. I'll just come in very quickly and we'll clean some of that pink out. You just work clear around the edge. Check all your areas in here and clean out any of that pink that's coming into the picture. And that will then give you a nice clean mask. Again, this is just a real fast way to do it. This will work out great on a more complicated layer mask and image selection. If you have a real clean separation between your background and foreground, if it's not quite as clean, then you may need to do a little bit of refinement. Notice right down here, I didn't quite get into the edge. So let's go back here to the other tool and I'll just come right along that edge, and that just cleans up that edge. So going back and forth between these two tools, I can either add in more of that mask or I can take out the mask if it's spilling onto the subject. Okay. And we're just about down to that one arm that looked like it had some potential problem because, of course, it's exactly the same color as the background. And there it is. You can see there it's actually spilling in. So in here, again, it's not that critical. So just use a steady hand and come down and paint right along that edge with that eraser tool. See how it pulled that out as well? We'll come back and fix that as a final step just on the layer mask itself once we get this step finished. But this gets most of it done for us. Okay, that's good. Let's check the other side. This all came out just fine. And scrolling up, and a little bit right in there. And the top of his vest right there. That just about is lost in there. So there we go. Okay, that cleans up that. Once you've done that, once you've cleaned up your mask and you're happy with that, then go over here to your Refine Edge tool, come down where it says Output and Output 2, and set this at new layer with layer mask right there. Then choose OK. So there's the new layer with the layer mask. It also automatically hides our original, so that's now saved as a safety. At this point, we can go back to that right-hand side, and you can see right there that's where the layer mask didn't really work quite as well. So let's see if we can fix that. To do this, you want to paint black onto the layer mask itself and just paint that out. That will hide out in the layer mask. The reason we're cleaning this up on the layer mask is because I can paint black over here and hide this, or I can paint white over here and show more. So I had that ability to go back and forth. Notice up here I have this light blue outline around the image. You want that light blue outline around the layer mask. So double click on the layer mask and there's that outline. We're now on the layer mask side. Go over to the paintbrush tool, and it's really huge right now. Let's just adjust that. I'm going to actually document this point. There we go. Let's bring that down to a reasonable size. That's pretty good. Actually, I think a hard edge on this. I'm going to go to a hard edge. Go to 13, 19, maybe up to about 36. That's pretty good. So it's a hard edge brush on the layer mask in black, and then just come right along that edge. And again, I'm just painting on the layer mask itself, allowing me to clean up that edge. It takes a steady hand, of course, down here to get this bit of it. But luckily on this particular image, it's not that critical on this. No one's going to be looking over here, and we're going to be fading this out and blurring it out and a few other tricks as well, and it will hide any little imperfections in those later steps. Okay, I almost finished with that little cleanup right there, and that's good. That's all cleaned up perfectly. A little bit up here maybe. Yeah, a little bit right in here. Let's just get some of that cleaned out of there. Okay, that cleans up the layer mask. Let's now go back and fit on screen. There's our basic image. His position is just about where I want it. It's just a little bit off center, but not too much. Center is actually right there. There's a little center mark right there. It's just a little bit off center. He's overlapping the staircase, overlapping the window in the background, overlapping that picture. And that's because I want to see things through him that are easy to compare with outside and inside. So the overlap gives us that comparison. And that helps to show us that transparent effect. Okay, that's the first basic step. Now one last little trick on this one. I want to fade the image out at the bottom right along down here. So to do that, I'm going to float the window again. I can then pull the window out here, and notice how the image stays the same size, but my window gets larger, gives me some space out here. That will help us to fade this out. Now the fade out is done on the layer mask again, and we're back to our paintbrush. First I want to have a soft edge and then a much larger brush. Just come down here, up down to the 300 soft. I'll double click on that, sets that in. It's still a little bit too small. I'm going to type this in here to 500. So it's really large. You can see that right there. And I'll pull this out just a bit further. The reason I'm doing this is so that I can see that edge of that brush down there. So you can see the edge of the brush in. Now I'm just going to go back and forth a little bit like this, just off screen, and I'm going to come in and just kind of fade out the bottom of that layer mask. Again, I'm just painting a soft edge, very large brush on the layer mask. And that looks great. Okay, let's now dock the window again. Puts everything back in the proper size. Let's now begin working on that ghost effect in here. We'll do that by first taking this layer here. This is our color layer. Take this and drag it up to the new layer button, and then hide that layer. We'll come back to that in just a little bit. Now on this new layer up here, I want to convert this layer to black and white. So go up to Enhance, come down to Convert to Black and White, and then choose something that has some nice contrast to it. You don't want too much. I want to see a lot of detail in the folds in the shirt in here. Newspaper is no good. Portrait is a bit on the dark side. I kind of like infrared on this one. And then just choose OK. So it's a black and white version. Alright, now let's make this a negative of this. So go up here to Filter, come down to Adjustments and Invert, and this inverts that layer and turns it into kind of a strange looking negative layer. Now our next step is to blur this layer, but it's something which I can't easily undo. So I'm going to make a safety layer on this one. Let's take this layer, copy it up here to our new layer button, hide the first one, and we'll do our blur effect on this layer here. So in case I mess up, I can always go back and make another copy from this clean one. Okay, go up here to Filter, come down to Blur, and I'll be using a motion blur. And there we go. I have it set at an angle of 0. And you can adjust how much blur you get right down here. More blur, it kind of pushes it off to the side like that. The angle of 0 makes it go straight left and right. And somewhere around 50 is pretty good for this. There's a nice 50 setting on that, 50 pixels. And choose OK. So there's our kind of a blurred background. Now at this point, it's very hard to see who this is any longer. It's no longer recognizable. But it's kind of a ghosty thing. If I bring the opacity down on this one, you get kind of a ghosty effect in there like that, maybe down about 69 or so. Kind of a ghosty effect, but it's not really a portrait because I can't see who this is. So we're going to fix that one right now. Let's go back down to our color layer here. Take this layer and drag it up on top. There we go, there's top layer. And I want to now blend this into that black and white layer in behind, and we'll use a luminosity blend mode. So let's come down here. It's quite a ways down, luminosity. There it is. Just a little bit of color left in there, not very much. It's really pretty much just a black and white, just kind of a touch of color in it. And let's bring our opacity down, bring it way down. So what we're doing now is we have a negative and a positive on top of each other, and they're both blending into that background. Now how much opacity you have here on this top layer, this determines how much you can see who it actually is. The blending of the two gives us that strange kind of ghosty effect. So I have this way down opacity of about 51 right now. It could go even lower on this, but I'll start off at 50. That's pretty good right there. Now it's not perfect yet. I want to have a bit more of a ghosty effect, and that's hiding on that black and white layer. So to get that, I'm going to tap the left arrow key on my keypad. It's still in the luminosity. So let's click on this layer, then back to this layer again. There, that kind of shuts off that opacity slider control. Okay, now just tap to the left, and there you go. See, it just kind of moves the image over. The more I do that, the more I see the other image poking out from behind. You can now see a glow happening right around back here. That glow, that's the negative blurred version of this guy in the foreground. Offsetting it gives us more of kind of a blurred effect as well. Now at this point we can play around with the amount of opacity. A little less, you're going to be seeing more of that blurring effect, but there's still enough of the actual image showing so you can recognize who this is. So we're keeping our visibility, keeping the portrait quality of this, we can see who it is, but by bringing the opacity down, we get more of that blurred in behind, and also that negative and positive mixing in here, giving kind of that strange ghosty effect. So that takes care of our ghost figure. So what we have then is the black and white version right here, the layer. This is negative, and we've blurred this out, and I have a setting here of 69% on that. You can really see things through there. Color layer on top with a luminosity blend on this, also pushing it to black and white this way. So we have a negative and a positive blended together, offset a little bit, and the negatives blurred out quite a bit as well, giving us that kind of strange ghosty effect. Now it's not quite interesting enough. It's really kind of too cheerful in the background. Let's make the background a bit more gloomy and mysterious. We can do that with a photo filter. Come down here to our layer. This is the background layer right there. There you can see the offset on the ear in there. So there's the background layer. Go up to layer, come down to new adjustment layer and photo filter. Where it says use previous layer to create clipping mask, check that, and this will apply this filter just onto that one layer. And we'll change our color here. There's the warming filter. Come down here to blue. Puts a blue tint on everything. Where it says preserve luminosity, make sure that's unchecked. and they'll be bringing in a lot of blue into this. I'll bring it way up to about 75. There we go. So just a lot of blue. It darkens the background down, makes it a lot gloomier looking. That also helps us to see the portrait better. And there we go. There is our ghost portrait. The main goal of this whole thing, of course, is to be able to still see who it is inside the portrait. So still a portrait, not just a ghost picture. So it's kind of a toss-up on how far to take this. You take it a bit further, it gets a bit more ghosty looking, but you tend to lose the ability to see who it is. And on this one, I want to be able to see the likeness in here so it becomes a portrait and not just a strange ghost picture. But there you go. That's how to do this ghost picture. Let's go ahead and take a look at this enlarged here. Just make this fit a bit better. There we go. And we'll zoom in a couple of clicks. There it is. So there's our kind of spooky ghost portrait just in time for this season of the year. And don't forget, you can download these two pictures. You'll find the link for the download in the description. Also, make sure you share this. Just click on that share button there inside of YouTube and take a look at my complete training course. And again, you'll find a link right down there in the description. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you found it useful. If you like this video, click on the like button below to let others know. You can click the subscribe button so you don't miss any of my videos in the future. I'm frequently uploading new training videos. Don't forget to check out my website at howtogurus.com.